Thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. Squarespace is the all-in-one website platform with all the tools that creatives need to build a website, stand out, and share your passion online. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Rebecca, otherwise known as Hip Knit Hooray Online, and today I'm going to be sharing a gift knitting guide for this year's upcoming holiday season. So this is going to be my third gift knitting guide that I posted here on my channel. I really like the one that I filmed last year. I'm going to link it up here, and I would love if you would check it out because I still totally stand by all of those recommendations. So for this year, I wanted to still compile a gift knitting guide because I love the holiday season, but I wanted to do something a little bit different. So this year, I'm going to be focusing on knits that are quite quick to knit up, but I think anyone would love to receive. So things that you can knit up in as little as 1 hour to about 1 week, because I find with gift knitting, I always want to gift knit, but I tend to lose steam or motivation if something will take too long. So yeah, I'm going to be sharing those. And I also thought that maybe I could share some ideas for other hobbyists, because this year I've kind of branched out outside of knitting to other hobbies like running, going to Pilates, and there's things that I think would be really nice that I could knit. So I've thought about some other hobbyists that I know in my life and what I think they would really enjoy and that I could make for them. So I'll be sharing those as well. Most of these patterns are knit, but there are a few crochet patterns. I think that crochet just works better for those items. So I'll be sharing those, and there's going to be a mix of free and paid patterns in this video. So I hope whatever budget you have, you can find a pattern that works for you and who you are gifting to. So we can get started with the ones that are really quick to knit. I would say that you could probably knit these in about 1 to 3 hours. So the first one is the Cozy Keys by Amy Whittingham. This is a free pattern and one that I talk about, I think, here on this channel a lot because I knit a few last year and they were a big hit with my friends and family. So they're these tiny little sweaters for your keys, which don't really serve a practical purpose, I guess, but everyone has a pair of keys, I would say. So they'll have a use for these key sweaters. They're knit with fingering weight yarn on 2mm needles, and they're a little fiddly to knit up, and the one version in the pattern is a little bit bigger, so if you want to knit a key sweater for a slightly smaller key, you can just make a few modifications, but everyone that I gifted these to absolutely love them, and they're very, very quick to knit up. The next pattern is the Knit Knot Bag Charm by We Made Wardrobe. This is knit with super bulky weight like tube or t-shirt yarn on 7mm needles, and I am actually in the process of making one right now with this green tube yarn, which I think is a new yarn from Michaels. I forget what the yarn is, but I really love this bright chartreuse color. So I've knit the I-cord for it, and then the way that you construct this bag charm is you knit this really long I-cord and then tie it into this pretty intricate knot pattern, and then you attach a little carabiner or O-ring to add it as a keychain to anything. Most of the bag charms that I see that you can make tend to be crochet. I just think crochet is just better suited for the different shaping and color changes. So I was really happy to see this one from We Made Wardrobe. I think this one is really bold, modern, very striking too. So I'm really excited about this pattern, and I'm thinking that there could be ways to personalize this knot bag charm a little bit more by adding some beads or some charms to the knotted portion of the bag charm that really dress it up, and you can kind of personalize it to whoever you're gifting to. I feel like it wouldn't be a gift guide made by me if I didn't share any knit ornaments, because I absolutely love making them. And the 3 that I'm going to share today, I think, are very, very quick to knit up, probably under an hour. So the first is a free pattern by me. I call these the woolly hats. So there's a 1 pom-pom version and then a 2 pom-pom version. And these are just really fun. You could even, I think, attach them to a Christmas card, like a blank Christmas card. And then the recipient could take it off and then hang it on their tree afterwards, or you can gift it with a bottle of wine or champagne to somebody and add this to the top of that bottle. So quite versatile, and you can use up a lot of scraps, and I really like making the pom-poms with hand-dyed yarn. I think it looks really fun. So there's those. There's also these ornaments here, which are free pattern. They're the Christmas Toadstools by Merrin Curley. These ones are knit with DK weight yarn on 3.5 millimeter needles. I've made this one with Normal yarn, so I think the color changing is just really fun. And then this one I knit with a sock yarn and mohair, and then just sewed on some beads after on top. So I really love this pattern, and like I said, it's a free pattern, and I think a lot of people find mushrooms really cute, so I love that one. And one that I haven't made before but I think is really nice is the Tiny Tree Socks by Summerlee Knits. This is also a free pattern, and it's knit with fingering weight yarn on 2.5 millimeter needles. So it's a great way to use up any sock yarn scraps that you have. And Summer has a bunch of variations for this ornament pattern. There's stripes, there's one with a light stitch, there's also some with contrasting heels and toes. So a really fun way to play around with different techniques, and you end up with a really cute sock in the end. So I am knitting away on all of these ornaments now. I hope to continue to build up my collection, but also I'm getting ready to sell these at some of my local markets again this year, and also post them online. So I am doing that with Squarespace, and I wanted to take a moment to chat about them because they are the sponsor of today's video. Squarespace's website builder is the perfect way to take your business to the next level. Squarespace offers a library of professionally designed modern website templates, which you can browse through and select filters along the side pane here to help find the ones that Squarespace recommends for different businesses, including photography, design, online stores, and services. It's really simple to customize web pages using drag and drop editing for photos, text, as well as the layout. And once your website is set up, Squarespace also has really easy online payment systems and built-in tools for inventory, shipping, and fulfillment that will allow you to stay organized and is also familiar and easy to use for your customers. You can test out all of these features with a free trial on Squarespace. No credit card information is required for the trial. And when you're ready to launch, head to squarespace.com/hypknithooray, following the link down below, and use the code hypknithooray to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thank you to Squarespace, and back to the video. And moving on to patterns that you can make in, I would say, about a day. The first idea that I have is something that is really niche to this year. I think if you're going to be watching this video in the future, you're going to be like, what the heck? Or you'll reminisce over how these were really popular this year. I think it'd be really fun to knit Labubu accessories this year for people. So the first one is the Labubu Knit Beanie Hat by Stephanie Connolly. This is a free pattern. It's knit with DK weight yarn on 3.25 millimeter needles, and it's just a really simple construction. You knit in the round in 2x2 rib. Another pattern is the Labubu Wardrobe Set by Mackenzie Mullen. This is a paid pattern, and there's a number of different clothing items in this set. So there's a raglan sweater, there's overalls, which is my personal favorite, and a triangle shawl. And there's various weights for the different clothing items as well. For this wardrobe set, you can really use the tiniest bit of scrap yarn, and I think it's super, super fun. I don't personally own a Labubu, but I know people that have them, and clothing that you can get online tends to be, I would say, like, quite expensive. So it'd be nice to be able to hand make them and really personalize the clothing to the person you're gifting to. The next idea is some sort of catch-all dish that I think anyone would love to have. We all have those little things lying around our house that could always be organized a little bit better. So one that I thought was really nice and is a free pattern is the Felted Flower Bowl by Meg Myers. This is knit with worsted weight yarn on 6 millimeter needles, and you knit this bowl in the round, and then you felt it together at the end. So you can knit this in one color or a bunch of different colors that are all just going to be blended really nicely together once you felt it. I saw a lot of really stunning projects on Ravelry. There was some knit with Noro yarn, which I thought was such a nice way to use the Noro yarn because the colors just blend super well together. There was some in like a really bright neon. I saw one that used like felted roving on top. So I think that they probably felted the bowl and then added that on top with a felting needle. And then just some with classic neutral colors that would just go well in anybody's home. So I think this one is a really beautiful catch-all dish pattern. The next idea is pouches, because you can always knit these up and then gift something inside of them. So the first one is one that I already shared last year, but I'm sharing it again because I really think it's the ultimate drawstring bag pattern. There's not one that I think is better than this one, and it's the Scrap Bag by Anabelle Chan. It's a free pattern. It's knit with fingering weight yarn on 3mm needles. There's 3 sizes in the pattern, but I really think you could knit this bag in any size that you want and use up all the yarn that you have. And it's knit from the bottom up with a drawstring closure. I still really love this checkerboard version, but there's other ones that you can knit with ribbon or just different color work that you can add on top. So this one's a really nice basic canvas to personalize. The next one is the Dispatch by Hunter Hammerson. This one is a paid pattern. I just really liked the shape of this one because I thought it worked perfectly for a gift card, and then the recipient can use this to hold other small items in the future. You can use any weight yarn, but most projects that I saw used a fingering weight yarn, and then there were some with DK weight yarn. I think that this pattern works the best with a thinner yarn, and there's 3 sizes in the pattern, and it's worked in stockinette, both in the round and flat, and there's a little button to secure the top flap of this little envelope pouch together, which you add at the end. So those are all the patterns that I think you can knit in about a day, and the next 2 are ones that I think you might want to reserve maybe 2 or 3 days to knit. The first one is felted wool dryer balls. There's tons of patterns online, but the one from Pretty Little Knit Stitches I thought is great because it's a free pattern. It's knit with worsted weight yarn on 6mm needles, so something that I think we tend to all have in stash. So you knit a little pouch in the round from end to end, and then you wind a ball of yarn that you then stuff into the pouch, and then you felt all of those in your washing machine. I think that this pattern is probably the best pattern in this gift guide to use up scrap yarn, because you are knitting that pouch, but then the ball of yarn that you wind ends up being a substantial amount of yarn, but it ends up being practical because you want that weight inside the wool dryer ball for it to be actually practical in your dryer. So I think if you knit maybe like a set of 4 or 6, this would be a really practical gift that I think anyone would enjoy, because I think most people, actually, I shouldn't say that, but people that do have a dryer will use these wool dryer balls. The next pattern is one that I'm seeing all over social media, and it's the Sailor Slippers by Annie Sews. This is a paid pattern, and it does require you to sort of know the sizing of the person that you're gifting it to, but I think that they're just super fun. They're knit with a super bulky weight yarn on 8mm needles. The suggested yarn is Drops Snow, and it's knit in stockinette, and then you felt it in your washing machine. I think that this one has really fun color combinations, and it ends up being like a really practical, nice knit for somebody to use over the colder winter months. And like I said, it's a really popular pattern now, so I think there's a lot of vlogs that you can watch about it if you want to get an understanding of more of the process before you make it. And moving on to patterns that I would say take about a week to knit. The first idea is some sort of headband that goes over the ears, because this is something that I am thinking about a lot, because I got bangs this year and I normally wear my knit hats, but I don't really want to wear those anymore because they're gonna make my bangs super flat. So I thought maybe a headband that goes over the ear would be really practical for anybody, and it's a little bit quicker to knit up than a hat, I would say. So I have 2 patterns that I wanted to share. There's the Hair Down Headband by Sandra Birkeland, which is a free pattern. It's knit with fingering weight yarn on 2.5mm needles, and it's knit flat in double knitting and then seamed together at the bottom using mattress stitch. And the headband is narrower at the back or the bottom, so your hair doesn't get that weird bump that you can get with certain headbands, so I think that's a really nice design feature. The next pattern is the Ellen Headband by We Made Wardrobe. This is a paid pattern, and it uses sport weight and lace weight yarn on 4mm needles. This one is knit in stockinette in the round from end to end, and the headband has ties at the bottom, so I think it's perfect to gift to somebody because it's easily adjustable to any head size. There's not really a lot of guessing that you have to do to make sure it's going to fit that person properly. The samples in this design are another reason why I really want to make this pattern. They're knit with shopwool wool, so there's these really beautiful color changes, but I think that this pattern would also work well for any hand spun yarn or really nice variegated hand-dyed yarn that you might have in stash. The next idea is fingerless gloves, which is not an original idea at all. These are really common to gift, but the two that I wanted to share today are super timeless, really classic, that I think anyone would like, and they're from two smaller designers that I really wanted to spotlight today. So the first one is the Isabelle gloves by Studio Annalise. This is a paid pattern and it's knit with DK weight yarn on 4mm needles, and it's knit in the round. There's double folded hems, and then what I really like is there's a little mohair layer that peeks out along the top and the bottom of the hems of these gloves. I love the idea of adding a little mohair layer underneath. I was actually thinking of doing this for just a stockinette sweater. I think it'd be really nice to add a little mohair cuff. It adds a little bit of visual interest. I don't think that it's really doing very much for warmth, but yeah, it's really fun and I think it's really beautiful. So that's the first one. And then the second one is the Giselle gloves by Knits by Summer. This is a paid pattern and it's knit with fingering and lace weight yarn held together on 3mm needles. And this one is also knit in the round from the bottom up. I really like the double knit hem detail on these gloves. And my friend Tar of Tar Knits swears by these gloves. She absolutely loves them. And I tried on hers and I think that the double knitting is just a nice professional finish, but it just adds a little bit more structure and makes the gloves a little bit more snug so they're extra warm. So I really love that pattern. And the last idea that I have for this more general gift knitting guide, and one that I think you can knit in about a week, is this wall hanging pennant by Insoluble Fiber Arts. This is a paid pattern. It's knit with worsted weight yarn on 5mm needles, and it's specifically meant for sports teams. So I think if there's anyone in your life that's really into a sports team, I think that this would be a great personalized knit that you could make for them. The pattern contains 3 charts already for sports teams that I think are based in the Philly area, but there's a blank chart in the pattern that you could customize for any team name, and the designer also has another option on their website so they can custom design a chart for you as well. So I think that's really nice, and I think that this could honestly work for anything. The pennant is just such a classic shape, but I think this is such a personalized gift that you could make for someone that loves sports in your life. So those were all of the quick, more general knits that I think anyone would be happy to receive. And now we can move on to the more niche gift ideas for other hobbyists. The first one is yoga and Pilates. I like going to yoga, so these are things that I would love to make for myself or be gifted. The first is the Jane Yoga Socks by Quasi Garate. These are a free pattern, knit with DK weight or 2 strands of fingering weight yarn on 3.5mm needles, and they're knit top down just like a classic sock, but there's an opening for your heel and for your toes so you get some grip on your yoga mat. The next idea is one that's crochet, and it's the Chunky Yoga Mat Strap by Swool Nordic Design, which is a free pattern. I just think crochet works better for this strap. It's a little bit sturdier. It's knit with bulky weight yarn with a 12mm crochet hook. And what really drew me to this pattern as well was the color combination. So I may borrow this for other future projects. There's 4 different sections of color combinations that you get by holding 2 different strands of yarn and changing one strand. So you get this really cool color block marling look. So those are 2 ideas for anyone in your life that really likes yoga and Pilates. The next one is for running. So I have also recently taken up running. So these are 3 things that I would really enjoy. The first is any of the headbands that I previously shared in the more general section of this video. I think those are really great for any runner in your life because they're a little bit more lightweight than wearing a full-on hat as you're running. The second idea are these pretty niche mittens. They're the Runner's Pocket Mittens by Jennifer Beever. This is a paid pattern knit with fingering weight yarn on 2.5mm needles. There's 2 different sizes in this pattern, and there's a small 1x1 rib cuff, and then there's a pocket that you add on top of the mitten that's secured with a little button closure. And I think that this is like I said, a very niche type of mitten, but I think it's really handy for people that like to run because you can use it to hold gels or tissues, your keys or your ID. Because when I go for runs, sometimes the workout clothes that I wear don't have any pockets, so I end up needing to have to carry a little bag, and I just don't really like that. So when it gets a bit colder, I think these mittens would be super practical. And then the third idea is the 100 Stitch Snood by No Frills Knitting. This is a free pattern and one that I actually knit a few years ago that I never really wore or had a use for, because I found that if I was going to wear something like this, I always wanted something a little bit bulkier, like a scarf or a shawl. But I think this is perfect for runners, or one that I've started wearing on runs as it's gotten a bit cold out. It's essentially just a stockinette tube. So it's super, super simple, a really great palette cleanser project, great for beginners, and it's knit with fingering weight yarn on 3.25 millimeter needles. And if you knit this with a very soft superwash merino yarn, this is Cascade Heritage, it's just a really nice thin but warm layer, and then you can just throw it in the washing machine after your run. But it's really great to layer up as you go on runs outside. The next hobby that I wanted to share is gardening and plants. I know someone in my life that really loves gardening, specifically flowers. So these are some ideas that I thought would be really great for her. The first is the Botanica pattern by Midori Hirose. This is quite an expensive pattern, I will be honest, but I do think that there's so many different types of flowers included in this pattern, and it's just such an intricate and beautiful design. Like, I think the flowers look, I think, pretty realistic, but I'm not a gardener, so I couldn't tell you for sure, but I think that they're really beautiful. They're knit at any gauge, but I especially like the mohair versions that I've seen in Ravelry projects, and I think it'd be beautiful if you could add a pin at the back to make it a brooch, or the person that you're gifting it to could pin it to like a bag or like a denim jacket. I think that would be really nice. Or you can add a little magnet at the back, and it could be a magnet on someone's fridge. The next idea that I have is the Pressed Flowers Kerchief by Amy Gunderson. The Pressed Flowers pattern collection I think is really popular amongst knitters. This one is a free version because I think it's in collaboration with Hobby, if I'm not mistaken, and it's a pretty quick knit because it's a smaller silhouette as a kerchief, and it's knit with DK weight yarn on 4mm needles. The kerchief is knit from end to end in an all over mosaic stitch, so it's two different colors that you're switching between, and there's a little flower motif along the border of this kerchief. The reason why I think that this would work really well for gardeners or people that really like plants is because of the pressed flower motif, but also it could work really well for gardeners that are outside. You can use the kerchief to protect your neck from the sun, or you could slightly modify the shape of this so it's a little bit longer, and it could be a bandana that someone could tie around the top of their head as well, again to protect them from the sun. And the last idea that I have is for those in your life that really like plants. You could make them a planter. So I would say that this is the type of project that is better suited for crochet. You just get more stability and a more sturdy finished fabric. So I saw that there was a ton to choose from online on Ravelry, but I'm just going to share one today. It's the Propagation Planter by Liz Barraclough. This is a paid pattern, and it's crocheted with worsted weight yarn on 4.5 and 5.5mm crochet hooks. And this is crocheted with cotton and jute yarn together, which makes, as I mentioned, a really sturdy planter. And then you add on 2 leather handles. I just really like the look of the 2 types of yarn together, and you just get a really professional look with those leather handles, which is why I picked this one to share out of all the planter patterns online. But there's so many to choose from, so this is just an idea, but you can browse through Ravelry and there's a ton of others to choose from. The next hobby is cooking and baking. So I feel like there's not that much that you could really make for people that like to cook or bake. So I do have 2 ideas, but I'm curious to know if there's any other ideas that people have down below, because my sister really likes to bake, so I kind of want to make something for her this year. The first idea is just a classic pot holders. I feel like you don't really have to look further than the ones from Pearl Soho. These ones that I have to share today are all free. So there's the double thick pot holder, which is knit with worsted weight cotton. There's the sunburst pot holder, which is knit with DK weight cotton. And then the pantry pot holders, which is also knit with a DK weight cotton. I think you can't go wrong with any of these three. The construction looks very solid for a pot holder because they're all double layered and knit in garter stitch, so a little bit more of a squishy fabric. They all feature this really fun color combination, and I think that they're all pretty cool and interesting constructions. The next idea are scrubbies, which might be slightly controversial because I feel like people don't normally like being gifted cleaning supplies. Like, I think that's totally fair, but I saw these Julia scrubbies from Lion Brand, which are a free pattern, and I thought that they were just so cute, like very shabby chic. They're granny square crocheted scrubbies. They're crocheted with stitch soak scrub yarn from Lion Brand, which is a 100% nylon and a chainette style scrubby yarn, so a little bit different, and you can see the granny stitch pattern a little bit better, I would say, with this yarn compared to other scrub yarn that I've seen. And this yarn is a worsted weight yarn, and you crochet these on 5 and 6.5 millimeter crochet hooks. I just really love these, but yeah, maybe a hot take or controversial take to give somebody these. I think my sister would like them though. And then the last hobby that I have to share today is for people that like to read. So I have two ideas. The first is some sort of book sleeve, and one that I really love is the Storyteller Quilt Book Sleeve by Katrin Seeberger. This is a paid pattern, and it's knit with DK weight yarn on 4.5 millimeter needles, and it's knit in the round and features this really cute color work quilt motif, and there's a few different quilt motif charts in the pattern that you can choose from. There's a few ways to secure the book sleeve offered in the pattern. There's a tie closure, and then there's a loop with a button, but I did see some projects on Ravelry where they modified the top, so there's a flap cover, which I think is a really great idea, and I just love the quilt motif in this book sleeve. And the next idea, and the last one in this gift guide, is not exactly book related, but I got this idea from Indigo, which is like a bookstore chain here, I guess kind of similar to Barnes and Noble in the US. And every year they release these reading socks, which are these super plush and cozy socks, because I think a lot of readers, reading can be sort of like a ritual too for them. So they really like to cozy up with the book and get all comfortable, light a little candle. It's kind of like self-care. And so these socks are a really great way to just add to that really cozy vibe. So a pattern that I found online is the Easy Cozy Socks by Masha Patterns. This is a free pattern, and again, you kind of need to know a little bit of the sizing of the person that you're gifting it to, but they're knit with worsted weight yarn and lace weight mohair on 4.5 millimeter needles, so they're a little bit more of like a squishy house sock. I think the sizing is a little bit more forgiving than a fingering weight sock, and they're knit top down and in the round with a heel flap and gusset. And they're knit in all over stockinette. There's no ribbing for the hem, so like I said, it's more of a slouchy slipper sock, and that also means that it's really quick to knit up as well. So those were all the patterns that I had to share today. I hope that you got some inspiration from this video. I'm definitely going to be knitting the patterns that I shared that can be knit up in an hour to 3 hours, because I kind of lose some steam and motivation with gift knits. But the ones that I shared for different hobbyists, I also am really excited to look into and possibly knit as well, because I think it's always really nice when you show an interest in somebody's hobby, and the fact that we can knit something and really personalize it and make it handmade, I think makes it even better. So that's all that I had to share for today's video, and until my next video, I'm gonna say goodbye and happy knitting.